Hello, this is Cho of the Shiny Colors Discord. Welcome to another episode of the Shiny Review. Today we have 3 cards that we need to talk about. A new Produce SSR for Nichika, Support SSR for Mano, and Support SSR for Mikoto. Keep in mind that Nichika and Mano are both limited, and they may return again in the future, but we're not sure when. They're both very good. Let's go ahead and talk about them. Starting things off, we have Nichika. Takayama and the rest of the faces of Shiny Colors really did make me eat my own words from last video, huh? In rapid-fire succession, Shees has already started their second SSR series with Nichika, who is a full visual unit that excels at single target damage. She comes with plenty of new gimmicks that we'll need to go over, which can be somewhat complicated if you're going in blind and are not sure what to consider getting. When paired with Mikoto's first SSR, Nichika can dish out frankly ludicrous amounts of damage with her appeals, not to even mention her memory appeal yet. The card becomes a crazy Swiss Army knife once you get her to 4 stars, which is where the meat of her build truly opens up, making the idols you choose for your lineup all the more important. She's easily one of the wildest designs of a card by far, and has good odds of being borderline busted depending on how she gets supported in the future. Her roles are center, buffer, nuker, and she's a conditional healer or evasion unit. I highly recommend pulling for Nichika if you're interested in Shees or just have a strong visual lineup. Nichika's initial skill is a visual 0.9 to 3.6 appeal that scales based on the number of different units on your team. So if you use 2 Shees members, having 1 different unit, so maybe 3 Antika cards, only increases things by 0.9. If you have 2 Antika and 1 different unit, such as Illumination Stars, it goes up to 2.7, so on and so forth. It does not go any higher from 4, so if you have 1 member from 5 different units, so 1 Shees, 1 Illumine, 1 Hokura, 1 Antika, 1 Alstroemeria, it stays at the 3.6. This also applies a 25% visual buff for 5 turns and links into a 70% visual buff for 4 turns. The max version of this skill scales the same, of 1.4 to 5.6 visual appeal based on the number of different units on your roster, applies a 50% visual buff for 5 turns, and links into a 70% visual buff for 4 turns. Nichika's 1-star passive is a visual 50% up that requires Nichika on your team, and it has a 30% chance to activate 3 times. This also unlocks a visual plus 100 uncap. Her 2-star passive is a visual 75% up, as long as the number of different units on your team is at least 3 or higher. This also has a 30% chance to activate 3 times. Her 3-star uncap is a visual plus 150, and her memory appeal once maxed out is a visual 2.0 that links into another visual 2.0. Now you may notice this seems a little barren, and I talked about how she opens up at 4 stars. Well, here it is. Nichika at 4 stars actually gets 3 different passives. The first is a visual 75% up as long as your Stray Light members are at least 2 or less. This has a 15% chance to activate twice. She has a visual 70% up and evasion 20% up as long as you have 2 or less Nocchill members. This also has a 15% chance to activate twice. And lastly, a visual 70% up and mental 10% heal as long as you have 2 or less Alstroemeria members. This again has a 15% chance to activate twice. Now, it is 2 or less, so if you try to run all 3 members of Stray Light, you will lose out on this passive. It also means you're going to lose out on her 75% visual buff as well, so you're going to have to pay very close attention to how you build and who you choose to build in order to activate whichever of these passives that you think is the most useful. For the support recommendations. The hardest part about going over supports with Nichika is the fact that her team is so potentially diverse. Because she has so many different routes to take, it really will come down to player preference. Stray Light and Antika have some super buff passives, so they're definitely not bad to consider. And of course, we have the Nichika visual support to consider as well. If you opt into using Nocchill produced cards, then Toru and Madoka quickly become great options for the sake of it. While Mimi and Fuyuko continue to help visual teams stay consistent in general, and even Kaho has popped up for her gold passive in order to help bring you into that better health range for Antika passives. So perhaps another card to consider. As for the team recommendations, we're going to be going off of what Takayama recommended on the stream that showcased Nichika 2. Mikoto 1 is a given because boosting Nichika's appeals by up to 1.5 is incredibly important right now. The rest of the cards depend on playstyle and what you really want to aim for, so I'll do my best to explain it. The first team recommends Koito 2, Tenka 5, and Asahi 2, which is more of a memory gauge boosting style team. This team attempts to maximize Koito's appeal along with taking advantage of all 3 passives provided by Nichika. The second team opts to use Mei 4, Toru 3, and Asahi 2, much more aggressive by design. Mei 4 provides active buffs for Toru to proc passives with, and also features much more buffing by comparison. It's a little more volatile, I think, but either of these teams can be pretty solid. Other teams I've seen floating around in Grade Fest also opt to use Rinzai 5 for buffing and Mamimi 4 for AoE damage, so choose which ones you like, depending. Naturally, because of the way Nichika's passives work, Rinzai and Mamimi don't get an extra benefit for being on the team, but being strong visual cards does kind of help balance that out. So again, use your best visual cards with your best judgment in order to make the most of either Nichika's passives or your ability to buff up her damage through other cards. Now on to the grades. Nichika is a center, gets anywhere from an A- to, I think, a SS. Nichika, if you don't factor in the Mikoto buffs, can feel pretty normal, all things considered. Now, if you get all the buffs that you need, then this memory appeal jumps up to a visual 7.0 when the dust settles, which is incredibly impressive. It might even outweigh the popular buff to appeal style memories, depending on how much visual you can impart onto Nichika. It's actually really strong once you can get that Mikoto appeal going. As a unit, S+ to SS. Nichika is outright absurd. She sports some of the most unique versatility we've ever seen in a produced card, coupled with hilariously hard-hitting appeals that only get more dangerous with Mikoto buffing you up. And nothing about her skill tree is wasted as you get more and more copies of her. In the right hands, Nichika could definitely be a real monster to climb through the ranks with. Next we have our limited support SSR, Mano. Well, here we are, Mano's 10th total support SSR. She's a pure dance support who is an absolute beast when it comes to providing stats and passives to beef up a mixed stat team. She's definitely tailor-made for Illumination stars, but teams that can dip into Rainbow style like Hokura can find benefit for her double stat mastery. Do not gloss over her 100% dance passive. She is absolutely making a statement. She has a lot of support skills, starting off with Idol's Bond, Promise Recovery, Rest Boost, and Stamina support, and she has 4 unique support skills. Unit Mastery SP reaching +10 at level 80, Dance Mastery Vocal and Dance Mastery Visual reaching +8 at level 75, and Dance Mastery SP reaching +5 at level 75. Her support appeal scales starting at a Dance 3.0 out of the box, becoming a Dance 3.5 by the time she is level 80. Her TFD idea is Dance, her Insight token for Grad is Vocal, and her proficiencies in Landing Point are in Mental and SP. Mano's 1-star passive is a Dance 50% up that requires the turn count to be 4 or earlier. This has a 10% chance to activate 3 times. Her 2-star passive is a Dance 100% up that requires at least 1 or more active vocal, dance, and visual buffs. This has a 20% chance to activate twice. Her 3-star uncap is a Dance +100, and her 4-star appeal is a Dance 3.5 that buffs your vocal, dance, and visual by 30% for 3 turns. Her event passive is a Dance 30% up that requires Mano on your team and has a 20% chance to activate twice. Mano earns a very easy SS. Every time we reach a new milestone in Shiny, it's accompanied by a ridiculous Mano card. And this Mano is no exception. When you consider that her 4-star appeal can enable her own 2-star passive with the greatest of ease, a 100% passive that can pop twice in a run is incredibly ludicrous. Everything boiled down makes Mano easily one of the most coveted dance supports in the game now, with only Onsen Kiriko standing in opposition of necessarily being the best in terms of damage. If you play any Illuminate or Dance at all, you'll absolutely want this Mano. Now, I actually do appreciate the fact that this card is Mano, as an aside. If this had been Hiyori or Meguru, we'd run into an issue. You see, Kiriko and other really strong dance supports like Fuyuko and now Mano are all vocal insights in Grad. That means running all of them together is going to make Grad actually kinda difficult, because you'll be overloaded on vocal insights, making the other insights harder to get. So, if this had been Meguru or Hiyori, we'd be in a much different position, and Dance would probably now be the best attribute in the game, by a wide margin. So, let's be thankful that this was Mano, I suppose. I highly recommend, of course, pulling for this Mano. Lastly, we have our event card, Mikoto. Mikoto, didn't we just get done talking about your support last time? Yeah, I guess so. Our latest event SSR is Mikoto, creating a pretty rare scenario of Gacha SSR support immediately into event SSR support. She's a dance-focused card that actually has quite a bit of merit to her. She has somewhat lackluster passives as expected, but a beefy 4-star appeal and plus 8 SP mastery. However, her appeal makes me feel like Nichika might appreciate this Mikoto a lot. Her support skills are Idol's Bond, Promise Recovery, Rest Boost, and Stamina support, and her unique support skill is Dance Mastery SP, reaching plus 8 at level 75. Her support appeal scales starting at a Dance 2.5, but working its way up to a Dance 3.0 at level 80. Her TFD idea is Mental, her Insight token for Grad is Visual, and her proficiencies in Landing Point are in Dance and Visual. Mikoto's 1-star passive is a Dance 18% up that requires you to be in the dance position. This has a 30% chance to activate once. Her 2-star passive is a Dance 35% up that requires the turn count to be 4 or earlier. This has a 30% chance to activate once. Her 3-star uncap is a Dance plus 50, and her 4-star appeal is a Dance maximum 6.0 appeal, scaling based on how low your mental is. Her event passive is a Dance 20% up that requires Mikoto on your team, and this has a 40% chance to activate twice. Mikoto earns a B+ to an A-, I feel. Much like when we talked about Event Chiyoko a little while back, plus 8 SP mastery on a free support is highly appreciated and frankly coveted if you're just getting started in Shiny. Double proficiency has proven to be pretty great in Landing Point, and a 6.0 appeal might help tip the scales for newer teams that find themselves low on mental often. She has a great assortment of insights as well, making her a great all-rounder card for dance teams in general. I recommend farming for this Mikoto. And that'll do it for the video today. Thank you so much as always for watching. Sorry for the small delay, had a little bit of trouble getting this put together. Frankly, Nichika had a lot of options that made me think really hard about how I wanted to put this together, so I kind of settled with what I think worked best. If you have any suggestions, of course, feel free to leave them in the comments below, and like the video if you enjoyed what you saw. Next time we'll be talking about whatever banner comes next. Let's look forward to it together. I've been Sho, thanks for watching, have a wonderful rest of your day.